Hi, my name's Phil. I'll talk about politics. And so Theresa May has just given her last interview as Prime Minister. No, she didn't apologise for her abject failure on the world stage or her evil domestic policies. It was a predictable attempt to cover up her abject failure by spinning it into a success. Much as with David Cameron before her, who claimed to have set the UK's economies to rights when he plunged millions of Britons into poverty, trebled our national debt, and rather than spend it on the country, spent it on his rich mates, and brought us the nightmare of Brexit before buggering off to enjoy his retirement. So on the subject of Brexit, May said that she underestimated how entrenched MPs had become. Now, this is an odd statement from someone who spent her entire premiership in a bunker mentality. At no point, until her deal had been defeated multiple times already and time had run out, did she ever attempt to talk to MPs about the sort of deal that could get through Parliament. How's that for being entrenched? And when she was asked if she could have done more to get MPs on board, she said, "Oh, well, one could always look back and say, if I'd sat down and talked to people more often." As if that's something that would only occur in hindsight, and she couldn't possibly have known at the time. What? Seriously? It's only with the benefit of hindsight that when trying to deliver the most complex constitutional change since King Harold headbutted an arrow, she would ever think of sitting down and talking to MPs. I mean to say, sitting down and talking to people whose votes I need? What a radical notion. Who would ever have thought of that? She insisted that the public still wanted Parliament to back her deal, despite all the polls being to the contrary. And if she was so certain that this was the case, why didn't she opt for a public vote on her deal then? That definitely would have passed through Parliament, and if all Brexiteers who say a majority want Brexit were right, we'd have left by now. She also said that she didn't recognise the criticism of her leadership and that she was the right person for the job. Yet she also bemoaned all the leaks that had taken place in her government. I mean, the thing is, Theresa, that's a complete lack of respect being shown there in the leadership. The lack of collective responsibility in her cabinet was unique to her government. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And all because nobody, not even her own ministers, had any respect for her. In another act of delusional insanity, she also said that she didn't regret calling the snap election. Now, if she'd simply tried to brush off that comment, referring to hindsight, she might have gotten away with it. I mean, at the time, polls showed that she would definitely increase her share of the vote, and in all likelihood, that means the number of seats in her party. So it was a sensible strategic decision. What she and her strategists failed to take account of was her complete lack of charisma, something of a necessity when campaigning as leader of a party. She did say that she shouldn't have run away from the TV debates, but to be honest, the sort of person who would even think of doing that, let alone do it, is not the sort of person who could ever succeed as Prime Minister. I mean, thank goodness our next Prime Minister isn't someone who runs scared away from debates and interviews. Oh well. But to say that she doesn't regret it, even in hindsight, is baffling. She's basically saying she's glad several of her Conservative colleagues lost their seats, that she had to piss away billions of pounds on a bribe for a Northern Irish party that would never back her Brexit stance, and to give too much power to the swivel-eyed loons in the ERG. Oh, and she also gave Labour a greater number of seats while she was at it. Now, I quite like that last bit, but I'm not sure what other Tories think of Theresa May saying that she doesn't regret taking action that gave Conservative seats to Labour. And finally, the line that nearly had me spit my drink out is she said, "In everything I've done, I've always done what I believe to be in the national interest." A truly duplicitous line from a truly evil person. And so it follows David Cameron's exit almost exactly, leaving office after making the most appalling cock-ups and yet claiming that their days were some sort of golden age for the country. But this interview was just one part of Theresa May's final battle as Prime Minister. She is not only desperate to write her own history whilst Prime Minister, but also do something genuinely laudable, though little enough was done when she was Prime Minister. As well as suddenly deciding to speak out against modern-day slavery and climate change, two causes that she frustrated in government, she sought to hastily implement what she calls an office for tackling injustices. Now, one of her central planks as Prime Minister that she said right from the start was she wanted to tackle what she called burning injustices in society. Well, she didn't. She added more injustices onto an already blighted population, but she wants to be able to say that she did what she said she'd do. She knows she can't say she delivered Brexit, but she blames others for that. That's fine. But Why not make an office that tackles injustice? That way I can't be accused of not tackling injustice. It's right there in the title. The Office for Tackling Injustice. The idea of this office is that it's independent and data-driven. Now, I wonder in what sense she means that. Is it independent in the same way that the BBC is, whose appointments are controlled by close personal friends of the Conservatives? Or is it data-driven in the same way as the Office for National Statistics, who are constantly complaining that the government are supplying them with inaccurate and incomplete data? But the idea is that they would be able to hold ministers to account. This from a woman who blocked the police from investigating the illegal role of her own ministers in the Brexit referendum. We're supposed to believe that she wants ministers to be held to account. And we're also supposed to believe that this office will ever get off the ground with Boris Johnson about to enter number 10. The only way that this project would be realised is as a ministry for propaganda. And the final act to save something of her legacy may actually be something to commend her for, actually genuinely, if she pulls it off. With the tragic resignation of our ambassador to the US, Sir Kim Darroch, there is a need for a new ambassador. Donald Trump wants to choose our next ambassador. Nobody believes that Boris Johnson won't make the appointment that Trump wants. He's not a leader, he doesn't stand up for Britain, he's a worm, and a particularly cowardly worm at that. The only way to avoid this fate is for Theresa May to appoint a new ambassador quickly. Boris Johnson's supporters are attacking May for even attempting to do this, saying that she should leave it to the next Prime Minister. A sure sign that Johnson would definitely not select a suitable candidate from the Foreign Office, an actual diplomat. After all, if he would make the appointment recommended by the Foreign Office, why would they be making such a fuss? So when Theresa May finally leaves office on July 24th, if there's anything at all I can commend her for in her ill-fated stay at Downing Street, this could be the only thing. Let's just hope she manages it. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content please, and until next time, I'll see you later.